It's 6:01, and the Conservation Commission meeting will come to order. The first order of business is the approval of the minutes from last month. Any comments?
I had a comment on the approval of minutes of the previous meeting. The first bullet point suggested removing from absent members. Should it have Sean's name in there before you get to it later on in that sentence?
That would make sense.
That's the only thing I noticed.
Any other comments? Or motions?
I make a motion to accept the minutes as amended.
I'll second that.
Okay, there's a motion and a second to accept the minutes as amended. Any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? One abstention?
Oh, yeah, I'm same.
Two abstentions?
Right, yeah.
Okay, the minutes are approved as amended.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Next item is public comment. We have no one from the public. There are no conditional use permits. New business? Any new business?
Depends on when you want me to bring up random things.
Or pertinent to Conservation Commission?
I just have general communication, so I'll bring it up later.
You sure? Why don't you go now?
Yeah? Already talking. So just a heads up for everyone that we are working on 4 master plan chapters right now. And so there is a survey that will be going out, and I want to make sure that I am telling you the correct chapters, just because it is a lot. But the survey will go out. A flyer for that is going to be available. It may already be available on our website. It's available around City Hall and other venues such as the library. And we typically put it into the water bills to reach lots of people. It is for we're working on the master plan chapters for vision, transportation, economic development, and historic and cultural resources. So you'll see that survey going out soon, and we hope that you all take it. We want to hear from you and anyone out in the public watching the meeting, and spouses, friends, neighbors, if you can get them to fill those out, because it's helpful information for us in working on those master plan chapters, a way to get a lot of people that may not already interact with us.
Okay,
That's that.
thank you.
And we will have a public meeting too, a workshop meeting in November, so please keep an eye out for that, and we hope that you guys can come.
Any other items?
I think I'm good.
Okay. Mr. Rhodes, you ready? Old business, easement monitoring. I need to get on top of checking out, contracting out for that. Any correspondence regarding old business?
Do you want me to bring this up?
Yeah, why don't you wait until, well, yes, please.
Okay. All right. So Mike Babinski and I met last Tuesday, the 2nd, as a follow-up for our previous meeting about signage and ways to reduce strikes against landings, turtles on Blackwater Road. And so he sent a summary from our meeting out, which you guys all have a copy of. And some things that he was leaning towards are the temporary yard signs, which an example is on the back. Those are 10 for $180. So they're a little bit cheaper than the hard standing sign. But as we've been discussing, there's difficulty maintaining where they are without them getting stolen. And let's see, he's still concerned about whether or not people are going to become numb to the signs, but I know that as far as we're concerned, it's going to be we want a flip-down sign, which is only going to be open during the active season, which is basically April 15th to October 15th. The rest of the time, it's going to be closed up, so it's not going to be an issue. The only other issue that we talked about was having the signposts get hit by plows as they're plowing, so that's another concern that he had. But I think if we position it in the right spot, then it should be okay. I had a question about, we know where the turtles have been hit and where they've been crossing, but there's also some wetlands up further between the two entrances to Sherwood Glen, and then there's a lot of there's some wetlands across the street from that, and also some dirt areas that the turtles might be interested in, that we have to think about as well, as far as placement of where we want them. That's all I have on that.
To that comment, I think probably they're not likely to go down that far. We talked with the state about, their likely crossing zone, and it was basically between about where that turnaround is at the Superfund site down to somewhere before the police station. Is that right?
Yeah, there was I can't remember how far that wasn't there a wooden fence post too that went along that for a little bit? But yeah, it's not a really large area. I mean, I think, one thing comes to mind too, or a couple of things, first thing is, well, where are all of the rest of the signs placed? Do we have this epidemic of our signs getting trashed every year by plows? Is there no way to put a sign there that wouldn't get run over by a plow? That seems, I'm sure it's a concern, but we ought to be able to place something, and so maybe we can talk about options with him on that. And then,
Well, if you can pause there, does the commission have an appetite for taking on the cost of damaged signs, should that happen?
I think if we invest the cost in placement of a sign in a location similar to and in the style of other signs in the city, then yeah, I don't see why not. And one thing too, this has become a Blandings sort of centric discussion, but it really is broader than that there too. And I think just your point, Dale, about expanding, that area. That's a great point, but it may not be there that's needed, but other parts of the city where, we want to protect crossings and animals at least have some knowledge of that. So I think that's something to look at too. We can bill it however is the best, if it's a Blandings crossing or if it's a turtle crossing, and a turtle crossing would cover more, a larger length of time, I would imagine. But I think that that's as important of a thing to do as it is just for Blandings. So, but yeah, for all of these, those proposals that came back, I don't see those as really workable. I mean, the best option is that sign that can close up, and that meets everybody's needs, right? Because that counters, point, whatever, his bullet point there about that they, the people just don't end up just not noticing them. So we as a group can take on, the funding of it. We can take on, going out and putting the sign down and up at the times that it needs to be. I mean, to me, this feels like a really, small ask in some ways. We've seen beaver killed there. There's the turtles. It's a high value wetland that's bisected by a road. Why shouldn't we try to, do something to protect things going across there best we can? So that's my 2 cents, I guess.
Should we be thinking about something that said wildlife instead of turtles?
Yeah, I mean, so that was kind of where I went with it when we were out there or after we met with them. But I don't really know and we can probably find this out. Like, what is the best message, right? Is the best message turtle crossing, or is the best message wildlife crossing? And certainly it's a all year long, right? It's a wildlife crossing, and then it's a turtle crossing, for whatever that is, 4 or 5 months, for different species. So, I mean, we can dig around some and talk to the biologists too, but I think that's an important point. I mean, turtles, certainly other communities in New Hampshire have had some success in, just going at turtle signage and everything. So, maybe that's the way to go. I don't know right now, but we could dig around and see.
Yeah, if we're concerned about it becoming background noise, wildlife crossing, deer crossing signs do become background noise
Yes, they
for a
do.
lot of New England drivers. Turtle crossing's unusual though, and particularly if it's flipped down for just 6 months out of the year, it's likely to be more noticeable.
People would be looking down for
Yeah.
turtles.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Yeah, it's probably the way to go with turtles.
Do we have a sense of what other areas in Somersworth have a fairly consistent issue with wildlife endangerment or crossing damages over the years? Is there any source of information for that we might turn to? And secondly, from the memo, I kind of like another factor too, and that's the educational factor, maybe through the schools and publicizing a little bit of a campaign, if you will, during those seasons to remind people that this is a human versus wildlife issue. We've also talked a little bit when we were talking about the conservation plan for the Lily Pond thing, about the Wildlife Federation and other organizations. I'll go ahead and look at them as well and see if they may already have some tools or thoughts or approaches that have been used elsewhere for campaigns about, protect the wildlife, it's seasonal, look out for the deer, it's that time of year kind of thing. But if we have more information, we can find for Somersworth particularly which areas are the hot zones, if you will, like the one on Blackwater we're talking about, and what other species, if there are any specific ones that seem to be endangered, then we could kind of put together a broader plan. It might carry a little more weight with people that, hey, it's not just a few turtles here and there. This is a more general problem that we need to kind of get people to be aware of and, get your foot off the pedal a bit.
Yeah.
So, one of the things that we did, so I agree with everything you just said.
Good.
And we had a discussion along those same lines with the biologist, but I think I wasn't here for, where when Dale reached out, but these are the points I think that the approach here was, these are the things that we need, approval from the city. But the other part of the story that Scott and I had with the biologist was, that kind of annual messaging.
Yeah.
That, these are, and whether they go out on, the Facebook page or however we do that, but to get that message out.
Send a
that,
message to the schools, let the kids know, the kids let the parents know.
Yeah.
Fish and Game has a pretty good set of recommendations and best practices. I sent an email out, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago. Or if you didn't get it, I can send it to you. But there's a lot of good stuff at the Fish and Game site. There are other areas that, you know, where there've been collisions with other wildlife.
Yeah.
I know that Sarah had been looking for turtle signs, I think for Willen Pond, and I can't remember where that would be, because it's set back from the road.
We might want to talk to the PD or the DPW out where they're consistently getting called out
Yeah.
for hits.
That was snapping turtles.
Yeah.
I imagine the police have some information from accidental reports
Yeah.
and so on
And,
that would give us a little bit of an indication.
and DPW would probably know kind of macabre, but they're going to get called out to deal with a roadkill. So they
Yeah.
know where they're doing that repetitively.
There have been deer on Salmon Falls Road. With deer, they go everywhere, so.
Yeah.
I mean, the culvert, you know, so we did the culvert report a couple years ago now, and that has information in there. When Scott and I were first talking with the state and all, I was able to pull up that culvert data, and there was mention in, you know, one of the notes section about 2 dead turtles. So when they were surveying, they saw turtles that were dead and they added it in there. I did not see that for any other location, but I don't think it means a lot, you know, if there wasn't any notes. So, you know, we could try to use the culvert, I think, information to some degree to see what, you know, maybe higher risk, or what, you know, the culvert under a road that is busier than others or something like that, and rank them out by risk if we get the approval to go ahead with signage and all of that.
If I can help with that, let me know.
And then regarding the existence of endangered species, we don't know. And one way to find out is to do bio blitzes in conjunction with the cooperative extension. Another method is to engage people to use the iNaturalist app for our, you know, to join our city project. They take pictures, and, you know, the GPS locations are saved wherever they are. And if they happen to see an endangered species, I haven't seen one on there yet. I don't expect to, but that would help. And then the state has a list with the, I think it's the Taking Action for Wildlife plan. They have a list for every municipality in the state for what species are likely to live there. I sent that link out with I don't know, it was wrapped into an email with a bunch of other stuff, so I can send that back out if you like, but that would give you some idea of what to look for and where it's likely to be, what habitats. But now we're getting, you know, scope is exploding a little bit. So we just want to make sure that we don't bite off more than we can chew.
Yeah, for this immediate piece, do we know what we'd be looking at for sources and costs to install the more permanent flip down sign sort of thing?
I think it was on the order of, what, a couple $100s?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I don't know that I never saw that. So.
I think that's what
Yeah, it was like a,
Mike said,
yeah, I think you're right.
because he was at one of our meetings.
So two signs, right?
Mm.
That's it.
Signs and ideally some paint.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the stripes, you know, the paint is an important part of it, right? I mean,
Yes.
it made a lot of sense when, and the biologist We talked about other communities doing that and how it was important, so.
Well, I think it's a good compromise because, you know, the rest of the approach is to replace the culvert and put up fencing.
Yeah, cost
Mike,
savings.
Mike did say that at some point, when and if down the road, like if it becomes like an infrastructure repair type thing, at that point, they would do the culvert, so that would be more reptile friendly. Animal friendly.
Sure. All right, well, thanks for checking into that. Any other correspondence for old business?
I just want to mention for the record that Scott and I are meeting the 17th at 1 o'clock with the city manager to begin the discussion of access issues to some of the parcels that we're looking at, in particular the Lily Pond parcel and some of the issues that came up around that on Coles Pond Road and potentially Blue Heron Drive. And I guess once we have that discussion and see where that's going, we'll have more to report. But
Thank you. There's also some correspondence regarding the tree inventory, but I guess we can wait for that. Any other items? All right. So on to member items, subcommittee items, and reports. 1, Wildlife Management Plan for Lily Pond parcel. As Mr. Rosberg Yoder just mentioned, we'll be meeting with the city manager on the 17th to talk about access. Any other discussion on that or questions? 2, Invasives Plan Subcommittee Report. Ms. Smith-Kenyon, no updates?
No updates.
I was just thinking, I would suggest maybe let's meet with the city manager and talk about getting the city to become engaged with invasives. I mean, that's the ultimate goal, and I don't think that we will bring an entire plan to fruition on our own without working with the departments and
Yes,
the city council.
I would agree with
So
that.
I think that's probably a good next step to
Okay.
move this along.
I have a comment/question about that. In doing the homework, for my sake, one of the things that struck me as a peculiar difficulty is the disposal of materials that are produced by an effort to remove or limit invasive species. This appears to be much more difficult and complex than I imagined that it would be, with many more restrictions that I was aware of, than I was aware of. So the question is, maybe can we get creative about new ways to deal with the disposal issue that might enhance our ability to go forward with dealing with invasive species? One person I was talking to, who was also very surprised about this difficulty, said, well, can't you guys have like a little incinerator somewhere where you can take this, follow a protocol, take these materials to a specific disposal site that we know is being done properly? There's certainly an expense involved with that, and I don't know that it's a good idea necessarily, but along the lines of, how do we get rid of this stuff? Because I think there's probably a lot of it out there. The conversation I've heard leads me to believe that we're talking about a fair amount of perhaps even tonnage of vegetation that we would like to dispose of in ways that with restrictions that we have to follow and procedures that we need to observe, we need to find a new way to dealing with that maybe, so.
Yeah, there are nuances like time of year that you cut it so that it doesn't fruit.
Right.
And doesn't shoot out new runners or whatever, it is illegal to transport it. We would work with the state on recommendations like that. A lot of it will be, I think there's so much bittersweet. A lot of it will be just cutting it at the base and
Right.
keep hitting it and leaving it.
It was actually the transport issue that produced more conversation than anything. If you just leave it there, won't it grow back? And of course, I saw some techniques that, promote it to die in place, or that smother it and cover it with tarps, or roll it up in tarps, things like that. But in the end, some things, especially larger woody type things, I've seen a lot of stuff online about the tree of heaven, which can be quite large, and is a very invasive, broadly present species in a lot of the Northeast states. It's not going to die in place. You can't use herbicides, you can't do this, you can't do that. We need to find a way through the maze that will help us do this a little more effectively without constantly hitting a roadblock. And so that's really the thought here, is to maybe we can find some new solutions to disposal.
You can use herbicides, but there's a cost factor there, and then a licensing issue. If the city would have to contract with a licensed applier, whatever their names are,
Sure.
applicator.
Applicationist.
Yeah. But there's some stuff that, depending on where you are, if you're close to a wetland or something, that there's certainly restrictions.
Like in the
there.
Lily Pond parcel, we're
Yeah.
we're on the aquifer.
Yeah.
So that's an especially sensitive area.
I mean, can it be, if there was an invasive species push, can the material be transported to Malley Farm and scheduled for a burn there? Because they burn out there.
Well,
Would that just be way too complicated?
that has its own peril in that stuff escapes from there. If you look around Malley Farm
Well, I'm saying dump it and burn it right
away. Yeah, it would have
not,
to be right
definitely
away.
not letting it sit, but I
Right.
mean, scheduling a day or a week where
Right, like a
invasives
targeted
are
hit.
gonna be
Yeah.
pushed and then it's lit on,
If it were the city, solely the city doing it, as long as we got some sort of approval from the state to transport there. If we were to open that up to residents, then we'd have to worry about stuff flying off of truck beds or whatever along the way and dispersing.
I mean, so I agree with that, but there's a certain level of risk to, do you, for these things that are pretty widespread already, is trucking it from property A to
Yeah.
Malley Farm, where you're knocking out a giant source of an invasive species, is that less of a risk than, or more of a risk than driving it?
Well, there are brush pickups, we could do maybe something similar to that. We'd have to talk with the departments about what's feasible.
Yeah, I think Arthur's idea is a great one. I think that would be a great project to look into, is the various ways of getting rid of that. I know for a fact right now, a lot of it's just getting dumped at Malley Farm, and it's not getting burned. It's just in the regular leaf and grass bags, and so in a few years that should be growing up nicely.
What already is,
It
But
is,
yeah, it is.
place over there.
Yeah, so we'll get the ball rolling. That. Any other discussion on that? Item 3, exploration of formal conservation of Malley Farm city parcel.
No big update for me unless Dana knows something I don't know. I think the appraisal was due to the city, or I mean to Fish and Wildlife on the 1st of this month, so September 1st. And then I'm not really sure how they handle that. They must then reach out to the city, I guess.
I haven't seen any correspondence. So.
Yeah, I don't think it's back yet because I would probably hear about it too. But yeah, so just everything is going forward as far as we know. Once that appraisal's in, I think that'll define the next steps for us. So hopefully, certainly by the next meeting, I would think we'd have some sense of where we stand with that. So that's all on that right now. And I think you reported out on trails and stuff like that in there last time. So
That's right. Did you follow up with the police about going out there with me to show them the encampment?
I didn't follow up on scheduling, specifically linking, and so I think I dropped the ball on that. You didn't send me the coordinates again either.
I don't have them.
well, I mean that's an old encampment. Are we talking about the same one that you and I found?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean that was
Looked pretty active to me. There was certainly more there than the last time I saw it.
Yeah, I mean there was trees down on top of all that stuff. Like I don't think people had been there for probably at least since the spring.
Okay.
I think even before that.
Maybe it's just a cleanup.
That's how I view it. Yeah, I don't think. I mean now it all changes really quickly, and so maybe we should do another pass on it and just to see. But I wouldn't worry about that site other than. Because remember how it was covered in duff, or not duff, but it was covered in leaves, most of the material.
So given that, we're looking at the trails themselves and the berms and the jumps. How are we addressing that?
And the bridge.
Bridge. Well, we were going to leave the bridge until we heard back from Fish and Wildlife.
Yes. I don't think there was any sort of, I'm not aware of a discussion about what to do with the berms. I know I saw or heard, I recall the conversation about leaving the bridge just because of Fish and Game, but I don't recall conversation about best methods about dealing with the berms.
The berms are a secondary issue. The encampment is a tertiary issue, I think. The primary issue for me anyway is the erosion from these steep trails and getting too close to the water as well.
Yeah. For enforcement to stopping people from further riding out there, police are limited to their vehicles can't go out there.
Can we brainstorm with someone on it, like to talk about potential barriers or something? And
Yeah, let me start it with Michelle to see who she'd want to bring to that conversation about barriers to prevent further riding, basically, or further.
yeah, I'm not sure that we can remediate all the trails that are there already.
How much comes from Rollinsford?
Yeah, I think there's multiple entrances now and certainly Rollinsford
Does Scoutland allow ATV use?
They allow it on parts of it, and so if you're out on Scoutland, you're on a true multi-use trail, and then you'll go off into an area and it's posted.
Okay.
No ATVs and cycles.
It's not allowed on any.
Ours isn't. Yeah.
No, the Rollinsford, any budding property is not
okay.
allowing ATVs.
Okay.
I mean, it's a tough one. I mean, you can see where people are coming in.
I mean, if you can walk, you can bring a bike on it.
Yeah, and they've carved in new trails.
So the barriers, what I was envisioning was within Mallory Farm itself, and I don't know how feasible that is, like putting logs across or something.
I mean, they've been in there with saws.
That would be a great jump.
Yeah, exactly. And they've been in there with saws to clear things.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a chance that maybe it's over too. That it was kids using it and now they're not out there anymore. I mean, I haven't been out there in probably 2 weeks, and I didn't see any fresh activity from when we were there before. I think maybe Fish and Game would patrol it. I know that may be an avenue to have a discussion with.
They will. I talked with Fish and Game and with the Trails Bureau, and they will once we have officially designated trails.
Does it have to be designated trails or designated conservation area?
No, they won't get into patrolling all of our conservation land.
But if it has trails that are formalized somehow,
Mhm.
they would then go in. Okay.
Okay, so I can talk to Michelle about likely if there's any sort of barriers needing to be installed, likely Public Works would need to be involved because they would do the manual labor of that. So I'll talk to Michelle. She is out of the office for the rest of this week, but I can discuss with her about how to move forward with that, who should be involved, etc. I will connect you with the police chief about a potential for a site walk at the Malley Farm to identify locations of the encampments.
Yeah, as Kevin was saying, that might not be.
I mean, so I would back off of barriers too. I
Okay.
feel like barriers are going to be a waste of money at this point, and maybe we do. I mean, they'll probably get torn down, but maybe we do sign. I mean, part of it is I think there's a feel for people that it's abandoned. Depending on which way you come in there, what you're up to, you're a kid or a teenager or a young adult. There's not a lot of activity there, so maybe some signs up near the softball fields, because I'm pretty sure I thought they were only coming in the other direction, but I saw 4-wheel tracks coming in from the fields too. And so maybe some signage, like conservation land signage. I know it's it's dicey, but I mean, education may be the best option right now because we're not going to, to spend any type of money on barriers where, I mean, there are barriers, right? Where we saw the bike trail that goes around barriers to a
And
degree.
I spoke to the police about just going over there and in the parking lot and watching the people that walk the dogs over there because they let them loose off their leash, and they're going all over the place, and they basically just don't have the resources to go over there all the time and watch that.
Apparently, you don't remember that one of my last no hunting signs was taken down and used for a jump.
I didn't see it on a jump. I know that it was ripped down. But yeah, I guess, I mean, I'm okay with also doing nothing out there right now, and that's the reality of the place until we have things formalized. But I would hate to spend, it'd be probably thousands of dollars to put barriers at this junction. I think you'd be wasting your time with that conversation right now is all.
Well, I have a bunch more no hunting signs and a hunting ladder now, so that I could climb the tree and put them up where they can't be torn down easily.
Why is that property no hunting?
It's a city ordinance.
Just for all public
All
or
parks.
Somersworth lands it's not a park though.
It is.
That's considered a park right
Yes.
now? Okay, all right.
So no action on the encampment to connect you with the police chief, or do you want to have conversations with the police chief?
What does this side of the room think about?
I think it never hurts to have a conversation, but I agree with Kevin. I walked out there, was it Sunday morning, and I didn't see anything.
So is there remnants of an encampment out there that would need cleanup at the minimum?
Yeah, I mean, it's sizable too, like big barrels. I mean, and the other thing, maybe the discussion is about a persistent or a presence there. You know, so we know we had active camps in there last winter, right? I think it was fall, winter in the field area. This was back even further, so I think that there's always going to be pressure on that site. You know, it's a large wooded area with pretty easy access.
So I think it would make sense to engage with PD to figure out on an initial contact what needs to be done on the site. At that point, whether it's a police matter or a DPW matter for a cleanup, that's determinable once you figure out that it's not a hazard, like an active hazard from people.
Well, this sounds almost like the same thing that happened up in Sunningdale earlier in the
Yes.
year, where they had to actually bring in, what was it, ServPro or somebody to clean up I don't know if it's the same situation, but
Likely.
Yeah, I think it will be. It's in a way, I mean, it's a tough one because you can't see anything. You know, I mean, you can see parts of it, but there's a lot of stuff that's covered with last year's leaf fall.
I could post on the NHACC mailing list about, solutions that other towns have employed.
At least seasonally, this is certainly going to fit in with some of the homeless issues. And whatever plan we end up with down the road for managing this site is going to run into that issue seasonally as well. So that's a minor factor at this moment, I think, but I think we have to keep it in mind.
You're right, and like Kevin was saying, it's a wide open wooded space, and, all of our easements are wide open wooded spaces, so when an encampment is closed down in one spot, the odds are that it's going to, reestablish on one of our conservation properties.
One factor about that is visibility. These encampments don't pop up where they can be seen. So I don't know how to make that work in our favor necessarily, but if they perceive that they're going to be observed and detected and, harassed, they won't encamp there. It doesn't solve their problem of homelessness, but it does address how to deal with what happens when there is an encampment actively operating there and how it deteriorates the tract. So signs in that respect, I think, can help because they say to a person who's in there thinking of camping out that if there's a fresh sign there, somebody's watching. And that might be a helpful factor.
So I think along those same lines too, like once we have designated protection and official trails, there's going to be more people there. Like Dave's saying, there's a ton of people that go out to the parking lot there and the fields, and I don't mean the sort of the ecological fields or whatever we want to refer to them, but the softball fields and that sort of green buffer. I mean, I see when I'm out there, I'll see maybe 5 or 6 people come in with dogs and all, and nobody goes down to the river and on the trail, so because frankly, you unless you really know what you're looking for, you can't see that trail and all. So in a way, at least for Malley Farm, I do think it's like a double-edged sword. You don't want to open up too much of that property to too heavy of a flow of people, but at the same time that a flow of people and will end up protecting it a little bit more too. And so for Malley Farm, I do think that will work itself out. The next couple of years are probably going to be tough, but like Sunningdale, some of these other areas that will never have a presence of people in are always, we're always going to be chasing things until there's some sort of improvement in the world.
So make it just nice enough to be used by a relatively few people, but not so nice that a lot of people will want to go in there and destroy the features we're trying to preserve.
It's all a tough balance.
It is.
It really is, you know. And maybe the more wooded parcels that are non-accessible for typical visitation, maybe we need to try to get into those more than, I think they're just once a year now, right, for the evaluation, so maybe.
There's nothing required for Mallee Farm yet.
Yeah, no, I mean outside of Mallee
Yes.
Farm.
Annual,
So
yeah.
ones that don't have true access to, we might need to go into those a few more times a year, even if it's not official, evaluation or assessment, just to have a look-see.
That reminds me, Doug, about your easement walk of, I forget what the parcel name is, but it's off of Rocky Hill Road. You mentioned some trash there.
Oh, yeah.
We should follow up on that, because most of that is along the road, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's been some dumping.
Yeah. Wasn't on not the Salmon Falls Road. Yeah, Rocky Hill.
Yeah.
Mostly beyond the culvert.
Yes.
So that would be relatively easy to clean up.
I don't know,
I mean, there's a lot of it, but you don't have to go into the parcel to get it.
not too far. I mean, it's
Yeah.
20 feet in, but there are car parts in there, and wheels and axles and stuff.
Yeah. Anyone want to take that action item?
To what, actually clean it up?
Yeah. Well, to talk with Public Works. Probably that's the first step. And if, yeah,
When do we have our city cleanup day? Is that in the fall? Can we put it in conjunction with that? We can get a bunch of kids and volunteers to help us on that day.
Spirit Up Somersworth. Yeah, that's around Earth Day, April 21st-ish. There's also, Councilor Cameron does,
Yep, she does. I should
Don't
know.
Trash
Yes,
Somersworth.
yeah, Don't Trash Somersworth, where they pick streets, neighborhoods, areas that they clean up. But suggesting conservation easements could be a great utilization of people that are looking to help out, especially where there's been a couple. I think the Lily Pond one has some trash too deep in there that we haven't
It does.
addressed yet.
yeah, and the access.
that one's
plays
much-
into that too.
Yeah, that one's much farther in though than what it sounds like what Doug has identified. But they might be a resource that could be potentially at least communicated with.
I can reach out to her.
Who was that again?
Nancy Cameron?
I mean, I don't mind going out there and seeing, trying to get a sense of what we would need to, I mean, maybe Doug and Dale already have this and know how much material is there and how big it is, but that would be like the first step, and then we can approach the city about it.
If we have a cleanup day in April, let's have a conservation day in October.
Yeah,
So we have
sure.
something in the fall where maybe we clean up and get volunteers for that. And it's also a day where residents can bring their stuff.
Exotic
Wow.
species. Did you guys take pictures by any chance of that? You did? Would you mind emailing them to me? I mean, not right now, just over the next couple days. If you don't have them, just let me
I think
know.
you took most of them because.
Yeah, the ones that I got were not along
Sorry,
the
what?
road. It
Is
was
SYC
on the
still
property where people
running? Is
like
that
had abandoned
Spirit
car
Up
doors
Somersworth?
and tires
Still
and
active?
that kind of stuff.
Okay.
But
I don't know.
Okay.
If not,
This
then
is the
probably-
the big
probably it's
easement.
not active anymore.
That would be
that
where it's
Salmon
through the
Falls
school.
Road
It's
and
not
back.
something that I'm directly involved with. I don't know a lot about it.
Okay.
I understand the city used to do a
I think it was Maureen Jackman, right?
Was it all? Yeah. Don't they not? I don't think SYC's active anymore. I could be completely uneducated on that, so I will look into it.
Thanks.
Does the high school still have an Interact club? They may know. They had a club that was an Interact club when my daughter was there, that you could, approach the teacher that ran it and say, we're looking for, a half a dozen kids or a dozen kids. They're all, a lot of kids that need a volunteer work, for either scholarships or for many other reasons. I just want to be on the Interact club. And
Yeah.
that might be a resource that we can do during one of those days as well.
Yeah, it was active when my kids were in school, but it's been a while now.
Yeah, same here.
Nancy Cameron, what's her title or position?
City councilor.
City councilor.
Are you reaching out to her?
I guess so.
There's a Facebook, whatever they're called, group.
Okay. Now, is this something you would be looking for this year or next year or?
No rush. All right. Is that beat that dead horse?
SYC is no longer an active
Okay.
group organization. I don't know if anyone took over their cleanup effort that they.
Probably not. Maybe that's why Councilor Cameron took it up.
It could be. It appears they ended at the end of school year of 24.
Has the city ever thought about, I know it's costly, but putting cameras up in some areas like Malley Farm and on the trails and like that to be able to be monitored by the police department?
There's a camera at the entrance to the drop-off site. We've discussed whether to put up dummy cameras in whatever locations.
I mean, my experience with them on the railroad side, we put them up at a lot of different waysides where homeless were going in after we cleaned them out. And they work pretty good. A couple of them actually have they go back to the dispatch center and have a speaker on them, so if someone comes, they can tell them stay off the property.
How expensive are they?
Well, we did a bunch of them, like over 500 of them, so it was very expensive. But I think, one or two here and there shouldn't be too many. The cameras have come down a lot in price.
Are those the dummies or the?
No, real ones.
Oh, the real ones.
Yeah. We're in the $1 million area.
Like it says, if you can get a dummy camera and a sign, well, not to put more signs up, but just something that your, video, especially in the entrance where they're coming into Malley Farm, you're under surveillance or whatever, and might stop a few people.
Do you want to look into that? Mr. Nagy?
On cameras?
Yeah.
The city, yeah.
Live or dummies?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or a combination thereof.
Okay. Item 4, City Tree GPS Inventory Project. Mr. Breyer. Before I hand it over to you, I think Ms. Crosley can present on that regarding the prep application.
Yes, so we were notified August 18th from Annie Cox of Piscataqua Region Estuaries Partnership that the city's been invited to join the project builder. The project builder proposal that we had presented is for the tree inventory of downtown city trees, which is the intent is to create a clear project and determine what the goal of the project is. And PREPA, through the project builder facilitator, will guide the project team from brainstorming through project scope building and or grant writing for 4 to 6 months. Facilitator will help support the launch of ideas. They'll equip us with resources and relationships we need for applying for funding and build ongoing resilience in the community. It's a 4 to 6 month time period, and then projects reviewed to see if it's suited for various different grants. PREPA's adapting together climate impact grants, as well as other grants. We are working with Lisa Wise with the project builder, and Abigail Lyons providing support, project support. Communications expected, they said early September, so soon. I missed that question with Michelle, but I don't think she's heard from them yet, but having an October kickoff meeting. So that's some of that. There is a grant that is open in October, the Climate Impacts Grant, the 2025 to 2026 grant. We did send off an inquiry to PREPA with the scope that FB Environmental has to see if that contract could be, if we could apply for that grant, and if the grant could cover that scope of work specifically. I haven't heard back from her yet on that, but that's the timeline on the PREPA.
I don't know about the feeling of the commission as a whole, but could we approach the grant application from a discrete scope from the initial tree inventory project?
What do you mean by that?
So, I'd heard some talk about, potentially that grant would be covering a broader scope of tree inventory, like the like certain tree stands. And what were you?
So I think I'm still kind of confused because when we had our original meeting, I thought that we were talking about, plans going forward. I think then, Scott, maybe you suggested that the city had received funds already, but that doesn't sound, what Dana just said, that doesn't sound like that's the case. So,
No,
so this would
the commission had
navigate.
voted to allocate funds.
No, yeah, I understand that. This was about the grant program or the PREPA. And so it sounds like, so for PREPA, we just build towards projects that then they help us find funding streams. Is that correct?
Yeah, they'll help basically mold the project. So taking the idea of it, making sure that it is clear, concise, and in a manner that we can then move forward into the next steps. So, where the FB environmental contract, the scope of work is to create the database. We're thinking that may be able to still move forward while we're still working with the project builder. Staff's recommendation is to have that initial meeting with PREPA in October, get that understanding, and then if it's then possibly moving forward with building the database and then building off of that with the scope of the tree inventory with the PREPA. That makes sense. And alternatively too, if the PREPA comes back that we could apply for funding for it, that may be something that the commission would want to consider. If it's the funding that's open in October this year.
So I think that the my feeling is that project is already planned out and basically complete. that we've already handed it off so that FB can take it and run. So it seems like redundant work to work with someone on a, creating a project, building a project.
Sounds like it would be expansion of that, because we've contracted with FB, or we've authorized the funds to contract with FB to create the database and to upload what we've got at this point. But there'd be the potential of using some of this grant funding to continue and build off of that foundation. So I think we've got a question of which chunk do we address with the money we've already allocated, which chunk do we address with potential future grants? And the proper work would be figuring out that second piece.
That's the approach that I was getting at when I started this conversation. Can we use that grant, for, not to use it for the initial project and getting the dashboard set up in the databases, but can we use that for a completely separate project that uses the inventory?
Yes.
But there is no grant.
Should we get the grant? Right.
I mean, I think that's
Okay.
the important thing to keep in
Right.
mind, right? And so the conversation that when I was on the call with Michelle, I can't remember if you were on, I don't think were you on there, Dana? And then a couple of the state folks was, at least for me, it was an expansion of what Doug had already been working on and what Jeremy's alluded to, and so we mentioned, or we discussed, the cemetery surveys, the forest stand surveys, to have a complete picture about the condition of our forests in the context also of climate resiliency, because that's a part of the program. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's, unless there's some pushback from the city to not, that it's important to have the urban component that Doug's already completed in there. I mean, it looks good on a grant application to have a beginning and a next step anyway. So, and there's still parts of the city, I think, that need to be surveyed, and that could be like tier 2. And we did have that discussion about tiers as well, that this could be a multi-year, grant proposal or, funding stream or whatever. So, I think, and maybe, and that's what, Dana, you sort of mentioned this. I mean, they want to have that discussion in October, I guess, and we hash it out then.
So is it, would it be the right approach to move forward with the initial FBI environmental contract and then treat the prep engagement as independent of that?
Okay, can I step in here?
Yes.
I had a meeting with Michelle on the 20th of August to discuss this. And first of all, I didn't understand what PREPA, the grant was, how it operated, whatever. But I did find out that the PREPA grant that she's talking about, or we're talking about, was for 25-26, 2025-26. You had to have your application in by March of 2025. They awarded the grants in, I believe it was May. And I guess we did get a grant, from what I understand from Michelle. And first of all, the total PREPA grant was for $100,000. The organization offered the grants to 52 different communities, 42 in New Hampshire and 10 in Maine, as long as it was somehow bordering the Piscataqua River. How much we got, I don't know. But when I was talking to her, talking to Michelle, we were talking about what they're proposing, what they will do, And like you say, they do prep work and community relation type of things and all that. And I said, well, I believe we're well beyond that point as far as the database is concerned, and she agreed with that. But she did say this could be used, like if you wanted to incorporate the cemeteries in the city, the schools in the city, certain parks in the city, you could always use that money to add those on to the database or something similar. She brought up the, what they called heat zones or whatever the city where you might want to be planting some trees. But she was all for just going ahead with the money we allocated, and we can use some of that money going forward.
Yeah, so maybe we could use it as a, use the inventory as a springboard for that, for the prep project, for climate resilience, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
All right, so what I'm trying to do is nail down our next steps. I would like to move forward with FB Environmental and get that done.
Yep, we already allocated funds for that. We should be
Yeah.
moving on that.
Yeah. And we did receive, I believe I sent it out to everyone. It's the contract, service contract from FB.
Yeah.
Basically, a lot of legalese and that kind of stuff. And then I think we questioned whether to pay the entire bill or if speak to them to, like, say 50% up front.
Yeah, can you reach out to finance on that, how to approach that?
To finance for the city or
Yes.
for FB Environmental?
I think their
Maybe-
contract says that they'll bill us monthly. So we would, so basically the city, it has a you as the signer, but, so to spend money out of the fund, we'll attach the minutes that you guys have made that motion. And so when we get invoices, Anna would include a copy of your minutes, and we could do like a spreadsheet to kind of track it too. Because if it's saying, because the contract does say that it's billing monthly, so she could kind of track it based off of that, that you guys allocated X amount of money, and then how much it's, kind of have that minutes attached and then track it to.
Yeah, FB will, FBE invoices will be submitted no more frequently than monthly, and work will be invoiced on a percent complete basis. So basically, they're gonna bill us on a percentage of the scope that they've completed off of that 929.
Can one of you make sure that the loop is closed with finance on that? Thank you.
Just if anybody wanted to know, FB Environmental, the FB is Forrest Bell. I don't know if people are familiar with that name, but he's quite well known, I guess, in the Seacoast area as an environmentalist.
Okay, so you're reaching out to finance. Do you want to reach out to FB Environmental?
Well, I have been. That was just weird.
Once we get the signed city contract, I can send it to you, Doug.
Okay.
Yeah, just so they know that they can move forward with it.
Yep, I will do that.
Okay, thank you. Do I have to sign that?
Somebody does.
It has your name, but I want to confirm that it's,
I do.
you have the, do you have the authority that you can sign it?
I don't know about authority, but requirement.
I can have you sign it tonight, and then I can double check that that's fine.
Okay.
If that would be the easiest process, rather than having you come back.
All
I
right.
can print a copy.
All right. Is that good, Doug?
Works for me.
Anything that we didn't cover about the project?
Not that I can think of.
All right. Thanks for your work on it. Any other business, old business to come before the commission?
one last thing, just to pass out. I have your 2026 schedules for meetings. So, apologize, I forgot it in the new business. But you all get one. There's one meeting date that gets shifted in November of 26. We will communicate with you when that upon gets closer. It's due to Veterans Day, I believe.
Okay. Treasurer's report.
Yep. Let's see. So, balance forward from August 31st was $329,498.76. Interest received, $1,208.16. Disbursed this month, 0. And our ending balance is $330,706.92.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anything else? Is there a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
There's a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting is adjourned at 7:13.